The following intensive care episode is brought to you by the Scarred Elite, our amazing supporters from Sirenicide's Patreon. Patrons like Byron W., Jason T., Christina A., and Exploring the Local Life. Join the ranks today. Find out more at sirenicide.com/donations.
This one's gonna require a little intensive care.
All right, get my scalpel. Let's see what's inside.
Welcome to another Sirenicide intensive care episode.
What's up, Scarred Ones? I'd like to welcome Jon Grilz to the ICU.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, I've been dying to finally, just interview and shoot the shit with you here on this kind of format, other than just, a messenger or emails and that kind of thing. We get sometimes lost in the soulless aspect of this thing when we're trying to do 80 million things in one day. But, before we get started, everybody, this is the ICE format. If you have stumbled across this interview here in the Sirenicide feed, just want to let you guys know that this is a behind-the-scenes look into one of the voice actors that's on our show. We do a lot of uncut, unedited stuff in this, but there are minor spoilers that will be in this episode at the top of it. Not much, but just a little bit. But towards the end, we'll give any kind of warning if there's going to be a lot heavier spoilers. And that'd be from Season 1, Episode 1, all the way up to the most current mini-episode 38. We are getting that much closer to our Season 4 launch. But before we go any further, Jon, why don't you tell them where they can find you on the interwebs, man?
You can Google me, and you can find me all over the place. I always feel nervous, that someday my coworkers are actually going to Google my name, and then they're going to be like, wait, what? But as far as voice acting that people might have heard of, if probably what I'm most known for is Creepy. So if you on Creepy Pod on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, there's a Tumblr, but I have no idea how to use it. I just know I'm supposed to have it. You can check us out on creepypod.com. Or you can look up Jon Grilz on Twitter, stuff like that. I'm not on that nearly as much because people seem to like Creepy way more than they like me. So I just stick with that.
Oh, wow. All right, man. Well, what we're going to do also for everybody, if you're trying to write this down while you're driving, please don't. There will be some hyperlinks in the below where you can follow all the creepy goodness. Jon's podcast is an amazing anthology effort, bringing forth some of the coolest and darkest creepypastas from all over the web and bringing them to life. So if you haven't had a chance to check out CreepyPod yet, definitely check out the link below and start subscribing and listening after this interview. Before we go any further into the news, I just want to let everybody know we will be giving away a Sirenicide, I think it's 18 inches by 18 inch tote bag. It's going to have the medically induced metal logo on it, which is the syringe and the scalpel going into Sirenicide, that new art by the great Desdemona Howard. So if you want to stick around, how you get that is just by being a subscriber to our Patreon. $1 or more gets you entered to win one of these giveaways at the end of these interviews that we've been doing all through the summer. Without further ado, let's get into the news.
47 Action News is closed caption for the hearing impaired. You're watching Channel 47 KZTM TV, Morriston, #1 in Texas.
All right, we're back. Thank you, Stormy, the reporter, for that. Channel 47 has been a really great news agency for us here. So in the news for this week, we have something really cool. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but there's an episode that I can't go into too much depth about. But there's a barrage of news reports that come out, and anyone at the $5 level on our Patreon can send in a request to be in it, and we'll shoot you over. It's like one or two little lines, and you can do them just on your cell phone because of the way it's going to be addressed. Quality is not going to be that large of an issue just because they're going to be hitting very rapid fire with some of the studio stuff mixed in between. So if that sounds interesting to you, or if you're one of our loyal patrons and you haven't had a chance to see the stuff come across the feed and you're hearing this now, all you got to do is just shoot us a message. And if, of course, we don't get enough volunteers, there's like 9 parts from the $5 level, then we'll go ahead and just drop it down to the $1 level and let everybody play in. And if you're at the $1 level and you absolutely want to do this, just message me and I'll take care of you. All right, so next thing on the news, this is really, really cool. We've been working on this for a while. We're going to be doing Q&A video on our YouTube page, trying to actually branch out there a little more. But we're going to start doing weekly Q&As probably sometime next month. No guarantees on it at first. We're doing them right now. And you'll be able to ask anything you want about story, production, music, making a podcast, making audio drama, whatever. If you got questions about, how do you get it up on the internet and those kind of things, we'll be happy to answer those as well. We're going to have a pinned post in the Facebook group, a pinned top on top of our Twitter, and then, of course, in the Patreon itself, if you want to just ask a question, so you'll be on our first show. And then after that, it's pretty simple. Just any question you have, you can put in the comments on that first video, and it'll carry over to the second one. Any more? I think we got any more? No, we don't got any more. All right, so let's move into the exclusive intensive care interview, uncut, unedited for the most part, with Jon Grilz. So Jon Grilz has played 2 roles in our show. And I think most people probably know him best as Gregory from Hammering in My Head. That's probably the most. I know this joke has got to get old now. I always find the most minimal character someone's played and say that's the most known one. So Doc, the dark shadowy character, our man behind everything. Again, minor spoilers. This is his modern iteration voice. Is the creepy one himself.
I know. I was surprised too when I first heard him. I'm like, "Oh, that's me!
Wow,
awesome, perfect."
Yeah, it was a really tough decision on what we were gonna do with this character. So again, stepping into a little bit of spoilers. If you're not caught up with season 2-ish, you might want to stop here. But if you are, you don't care about spoilers. Doc is he is a body jumper. He jumps through human shells throughout time, and he's thousands of years old. And Jon actually voices his current iteration, which I think we found out is a soldier from the Korean War. So apparently he was building hives in Korea, and when his, shell at that point started giving out, and sent out one of his underlings, and they brought back the soldier that would end up becoming what we hear as Jon Grilz's version. So I've thought about maybe in the future doing an anthology-styled story of that capture, hearing the dark, creepy Doc as the actual soldier. What are you doing here? That kind of thing. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Let us know if that's something you want to hear, guys. But we'll talk more about Doc as we get past the pressing important questions of the ICE episode format that a lot of you guys are familiar with by now. Most importantly, what have you been up to lately, man? How's your summer been going?
I think it's July, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think. My summer has been flying by as it usually does. Not necessarily happily, because my wife seems to think moving is a good idea.
Oh.
I disagree. So we're trying to go through fixing up our house and getting it ready and everything like that, on top of a regular production schedule. And we're already getting lined up for our October event. I literally started recording the first stories for October today.
Nice.
Just because, for those who listen who aren't familiar, on Creepy in October's, we do something I call the 31 Days of Horror event, where for all 31 days of October, we release a story. And, the first time I did it, I was like, all right, well, I'll just get through this. It'll be fine. Whatever, we'll be done. And it was painful to get through that first one. But I didn't think we were going to do any more episodes after that either. I was like, all right, we'll get through October and I'm done. We'll be good. And then that didn't happen. And that was almost 2 years ago. So now it's okay. I think November last year, we were even okay, I'm going to start planning for October now. We're going to even start recording stories now. We're going to be all ready. And then June comes around and it's all right, I suppose we should probably put out the submission request and start putting stuff together. And now, we're halfway through July, and I'm like, okay, I should probably get going. It's a lot. Like this podcasting in general makes time fly. I'm sure you feel it too, because it's kind of a time suck.
It does.
Like people, I'm not sure if people ask you, I think it's a pretty common question for anyone who creates anything, that people ask, like, well, how do you find time?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you do. Like, it's not, I was thinking about this yesterday, that some people will say the line like, well, if it matters to you, you'll find time. And that's true, but we're also really privileged to have that time.
Yeah.
Like, there are genuinely people who do not have the time and bandwidth and stability and everything else to be able to say, okay, I'm going to take an hour tonight or a half hour, 2 hours or whatever to sit down and record and edit and get things lined up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like it might mean that I'm sleeping less to do it, but I'm so lucky that I have an amazingly supportive family who, I mean, granted, if I was letting stuff slip as a dad and a husband, I'd probably hear about it pretty quick.
Yeah.
So it's still a big juggling act, but I don't think that, I think without that support, I probably wouldn't even feel the energy in the first place to do it. So, it's, you find time because you have time,
Right.
sort of thing. And it's difficult. I'm sure there are days where you're just like, oh, like, is it worth it? Like, even I have to assume, even you take some big like the biggest podcast, if you take, like you mentioned before we started recording, like Bill Burr or even Joe Rogan, I'm sure some days, as much money as they make podcasting, they have to have some days where they're like, I don't want to do this. And frankly, they have the luxury to say, I don't want to. Not everybody has the luxury to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to walk away for a month or 2 months.
Right.
And when I come back, I'll get 1 million downloads anyway. What difference does it make? Especially as like independent podcasters, and you're trying to like come up through the ranks, and you're trying to get a fan base. And then if you're fortunate enough to get a fan base, you don't want to lose them.
Right.
Then you're just scared.
Exactly.
Then you look at those down. I finally got to the point where I was finally able, it took me a long time to not look at my downloads.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, I used to look every single day.
Yeah,
like, I used to, even like hourly, like, oh, like it's a release day. Like, this is the big day. How's it going? And finally, it just got to the point where it's like, I will look when I upload my episode. That's it. I do not log in any other time. I don't want to know. It doesn't matter. I'm here to make the episodes and just move forward.
It gets kind of happy too. Like, I've done the same thing now, like, because I was the same way, like, all through season 1, and especially when we first started releasing mini episodes after season 1, I was like, well, I need to see how they rank compared to the full season episodes. Are we losing listeners in the off season and those kind of things? And now I'm basically to the point, same as you. I'll go into upload the next episode, go, wow, that's really good for a Thursday, and oh, that's really, really good for a Sunday, huh? Anyway, and I'll just go about my business. But yeah, it used to. I'm fortunate enough to have a very supportive team as well, being one of 6 people that create this thing, my wife included. Like the last few of these ICE episodes, I got this curtain you can see over here on the camera, but and I got a little Scarlett box hooked to my laptop here in the booth, and then on the outside we have our full little production rig. That way she can still edit while I was doing these things, because I mean. You're right. Subscribership, especially when you're trying to grow your fan base, it's a big deal. If someone just goes, well, I thought this was still a show, but I guess they're not. I mean, they haven't released anything now for 2 months. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons we started this ICE episode campaign of doing the interviews, because I want to make sure that even if this isn't someone's forte, at least they know we're not dead. I mean, if they press play on the first few minutes, they go, oh, they're working towards a season 4, I'll come back.
So, and when I was, when I first started doing Creepy, my big thing was I just wanted to hear the stories, like, which which actually sounds really narcissistic, as if I want to record the story so I can listen to them later, which I never did. I never, beyond editing, like I don't go back and listen to stories, but I really fell in love with like creepypastas with Ted the Caver and Russian Sleep Experiment and No End House. And it was those that led me to find podcasts like No Sleep. And then through No Sleep, it was what led me like down the road to even start podcasting in the first place. So creepypastas were really kind of my roots to the online horror community at all. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me, like why there weren't podcasts that did those creepypastas, because they're famous. Like, why isn't there a creepypasta podcast? There's scary stories podcasts, but why weren't the and on YouTube, like creepypasta narrators
Everywhere.
are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Oh, and, the things I would give for some of their subscriber bases, like it's unbelievable. Like how many subscribers they get.
Yeah.
If I only knew how to break into that YouTube market. So they were everywhere, but there were no podcasts. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, well, if it doesn't exist, why not be the one to do it? And it was just for fun. I just wanted to put it out there. And I did it as this big, big joint effort within the community, because I am abysmal at sound design. At best, I could maybe throw in like a gunshot sound effect.
Okay.
You know, if somebody else gives me music, I can put it under a bed underneath, and that's it. Like I don't have the ear or the patience or the technical know-how. Like I've got enough to be able to edit sound quality, but that's about it. Even then, it's pretty heavily reliant on the audio, the software itself.
Right.
And so I was really leaning hard on the rest of the community, guys like Pacific Obadiah, who I ended up teaming up with for the SCP archives. Rick Coast, who's just a phenomenal podcaster. He's got so many podcasts out there like Scotch and the Behemoth. And I was reaching out to other sound designers just for help.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, I want to do this, but I kind of want this to be a community thing. So like if you like help me with the episode, like guest sound designer or whatever, we'll plug your show for that episode. Like we'll do it like just I want the stories to exist and I want to help the community. And so that's what we did through October. And October, I was promoting shows and putting trailers in and stuff like that, which I still do in October. I still like promoting like my favorite podcasts, just because I like them. Like and I've had podcasts reach out to me like, well, what do you charge? I'm like, well, if I listen to you and I like you, I'm not going to charge. Like, that's silly. Like, I know it's a business and I probably could, but come on. Like, I remember what it was like when you just wanted to get going and you just wanted to get some attention. Like, I totally understand. And people like David Cummings at No Sleep was an absolutely integral part to my mythology. Like, my secret origin story. Like, he's practically my Stan Lee in that way, just because of the support No Sleep gave me in getting any exposure at all and finding any fan base. And I will always acknowledge that to the end of time.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was leaning on like all the sound design so hard, and then of everybody else doing that work. And then I got super lucky to find Steve Blizzen, and he's my current sound designer, my producer. I know that between social media and the show itself, it's really easy. I mean, and I know we have other voice actors, obviously, now, but it can very easily sound like it's like a one-man show.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely not. Like, I cannot emphasize enough. There were two critical moments in Creepy that make Creepy still exist. One is my meeting Steve Blizzen and him wanting to even be involved in the show, because he works so fast and so good. He's got such a great ear for sound design and music and all those things.
Yeah.
And he's been by my side, and we haven't missed a Sunday release date for over 2 years.
No, yeah.
Like ever since he started, we haven't taken a break. Like, we've taken breaks, but we try and build a buffer in, so we're taking a trip like it's built in.
Got to pack well.
And we're trying to do better. And then Bloody Disgusting being like suddenly reaching out and being like, hey, you want to be involved with us? And I was like, what?
Sweet. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. they were building their podcast network, and they still are. Like, it's kind of been slow going because their involvement just hasn't been that, but they're working on some potentially really interesting things right now.
Good.
And, so you got to have that support and the people behind the scenes, like in my case with Steve and my family. And then when I branched out and I started getting voice actors and just the quality that they're able to turn out for, it's amazing. There's some amazing talent out there.
There's a lot, man. Good.
Like one of my favorites, who I personally think is like the unsung gem in voice acting, is Owen Mcewan. Like, we use him once in a while, but his big thing is he plays Jerry in our gas station stories.
Yeah.
He is so damn funny. And we have an episode coming up soon where we actually had to throw outtakes into the end of the episode that he created. Like, it wasn't a part of the story, but it was technically a part of the story. Like, it wasn't scripted, but he decided to like ad-lib all this stuff.
Nice.
And we didn't keep it in the story, but Steve liked it so much. He's like, I want to add this to the end of the story. I'm like, and I hadn't listened to it. I'm like, well, can we just throw it in after the outro or whatever? He's like, no, because no one's going to hear it. People need to hear it. And I listened to it. I'm like, all right, yeah, people need to hear this. So there's some talents out there. There's some people that are just so good at this that I wish were everywhere.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Let's all right, so we're going to move into this. I'm very interested in this question with you. And it is no certain order, and I'm sure you could list probably 100 of them. But if you had that MySpace top 8, what would you say some 8 podcasts you could cycle through? Or like when you pick up your phone, you're like, yes.
It's tough. It's tough because, I don't know. I'm sure. I know there are some people out there that listen to 40 or 50 podcasts somehow. Like, I have no idea how they do it, but I'll just kind of vacillate back and forth. I don't listen to serialized stuff nearly as much as I used to.
Right.
Mostly because like my job just doesn't allow it. Like, there was a time where like my job, I could literally just sit down, like mindlessly be sitting at a computer, whatever. And now I'm kind of in and out of meetings. So it's like, all right, I'm 15 minutes in. Oh, gotta go. Or like I'll be in the middle of something, like typing up an email, and then I'll be like, oh crap, what did they just say? Did I just miss something?
Yep.
So generally I lean more towards comedy. Like, so, no sleep regardless of how far behind I fall is always in my top 8.
Yeah.
But I would also have to give Kevin Smith's Smodcast is in there because they're a big part of my mythology. And like, did you ever watch Kevin Smith movies?
Yeah, I've seen Jay and Silent Bob and Dogma and things like that, but
did you see Tusk when I don't think Justin Long movie where the guy gets sewn into a walrus suit?
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I actively watched it. It's probably been on in a room I've been in with some of my older friends. But
yeah, no, it's super weird. And that's kind of the point. So like when I got into podcasts, like listening to podcasts pretty late. I didn't start listening to them till like 4 years ago, maybe, because I just listened to music at work.
Yeah.
But I like listening to people talk because people talking, I'm not consciously aware of how long they've been talking as much as I'm aware of, oh, that song's over.
Yeah.
That was 3 minutes.
Day goes by quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, when I found him, I listened to like Joe Rogan and like Adam Carolla and Bill Burr and then I found like the Nerdist, and I was listening to a Nerdist interview and they're like, oh, Kevin Smith. Oh yeah, I liked him like Clerks and stuff, but I had no idea how many podcasts he had at the time. Because even now he's got like 12 podcasts or something.
Wow.
And I was listening to one, and it was when Tusk came out. He was doing this big media tour, and he was talking about how it was a stupid conversation he had with his like best friend and producer Scott Mosier about this scenario. It was just a funny story, but he fell in love with it, and it captured his imagination, and he went for it, and it became a movie.
Wow.
Like from a silly conversation. And I know he does talk about it. He used to talk about it a lot more, but just the concept of like, just do it. Like,
right. Just
try it. Like podcast, like he always touts the benefits of podcasting. Like, just sit down with your friends, have a stupid conversation. You never know what's going to happen from it. And that's kind of what prompted me to like buy my first microphone and do my first podcast that I don't talk about. And
I have one of those too.
Yeah, like not that I'm embarrassed of it or anything. Well, I'm mildly embarrassed of it. But it's like a different. It's like that Seinfeld bit, like worlds colliding. Yeah. Like creepy. That horror is that's this world. I don't need to let it collide with my other worlds. And so I started listening to Smodcast, and I just laughed my ass off.
Nice.
And they both got busy. Like Scott Mosier ended up being like the co-director on the new Grinch cartoon for Illumination. So they used to have them like every week, and now they're just busy, so they almost never release them anymore. But Smodcast definitely, and I'll still go back, and they've got like 400 episodes or whatever. But they were one of the first podcasts. They started in like 2007. So, I'll go back and just tear through them. Like even Familiar, like it's still funny to me. One that I found most recently, I'd probably have to say it's probably my favorite podcast now is My Neighbors Are Dead.
Okay. What's it about?
It's a comedy improv podcast, a horror podcast about the gist of it is about the other guys in horror movies, like the people you don't know, like the neighbor. It'd be like Laurie Strode's neighbor.
Oh wow, nice.
or a Zenith legal representative in The Ring, like he's trying to claim that the TV did not kill these people. Like, and I gotta check this out. Oh, and it's all these improv comedians that come on, and it is so funny. Just week after week, I randomly found it was one of those days where you ever go on Twitter and you're just like, hey, can someone I'm just looking for some good podcast recommendations, and someone sent out My Neighbors Are Dead, and the first one I listened to was this one it's like, oh, it's Event Horizon. I love Event Horizon, and the guy is on there, and he's a guy who stowed away on the Event Horizon, but he failed space school because his first day, his big plan was to just use birds in space. And I was laughing so hard listening to it. And I even found that guy's got a true crime podcast. I listen to that now too.
Wow. That's cool. Same format on the true crime, or is it more?
No, that's more straight.
Okay.
It's a guy, and they're talk true crime, but he's a very nihilistic comedian.
Nice.
It's called Give Me Murder, Give Me Death, and I love that too. I recommended that one last Halloween too. But My Neighbors Are Dead. I love it. And actually, through My Neighbors Are Dead, I found one of my voice actors, Nate Dufort, who's the producer on that show.
Oh,
I never heard him. I never heard him talk. And then, if you've ever heard The Big Loop, Paul Bay, who created the Black Tapes, has a new podcast called The Big Loop. And I kept hearing people kept just on Twitter, it kept showing up this one episode over and over, this is amazing. Oh my God, I'm crying, stuff like this.
Wow.
And Nate was tagged in it. And I had briefly chatted with Nate on Twitter, I think basically saying dude, I love your show. I think I became a patron of him, and I think I just had to reach out to be you guys are awesome. I just wanted to let you guys know.
Nice.
And then I kept seeing his name. And it's holy shit, this guy's a good voice actor. So I listened to him on The Big Loop, and it was amazing. And I was like, hey, could you do a story for us? Nice. He's like, sure. So we've been using him quite a bit lately, just because he's got such, some people they get timing.
Right.
Especially reading stories is tough.
Yep.
Everybody, what's the best way to put this? I think I even said on Twitter the other day, the biggest advice I have for anyone is you're not reading a story, you're telling a story.
Right.
These are your words. They're supposed to mean something. It's not supposed to be, and then we went into the woods and it was dark and stormy. That's not how someone would tell a story. You wouldn't. If someone's standing across from you, you're at a bar, you're at a campfire, you're at a kitchen table, the words have to mean something to you.
Emphasis.
Exactly. And some people can do it and some people can't. Some people can just do it better than others.
Right.
And I think the best narrators out there are the ones who you just have no idea that that's what they're doing.
Right.
Like, because they're like, oh, they just sound so natural. It's like, well, it's not that. Yes, they do. And you don't sound natural. Because it's tough, because you're used to reading a story.
Right.
Like, in your head, you read a story, like you're reading word for word, and then you get the sheet of paper in front of you and you read the words that are in front of you, and you're like, oh, I'm like, okay, this is good. I read the story. Like, yes, you did read the story, and I don't want to listen to it. Like, I could just read the story. And I don't mean that, in a reductive or defeatist or negative way.
Right.
It's just the way it is. Like, that's why, like, people talk about how they want to get into voice acting. And it's like, okay, well, practice.
Well, yeah, you brought up earlier those creepypasta YouTubes. Like, for one, yeah, like 90% of them is just, this is the Slender Man. The Slender Man is the blah, 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 blah. And it's like, are the ones that, God forbid, they just threw all the text into their laptop and then just had that narrate over a moving picture. It's like, what is this garbage?
You know, and it's tough. You know, it's like anything else. It's practice. It's practice. But to me, the difference, or the way that it makes sense in my head, is really just trying to convince someone that this happened to me.
Right.
Like, it's my story. These are my words. Like, so, and each story does have a different cadence because they were written by a different person. And people's writing just sounds different. So a lot of times once you start reading, like, the way the words flow, like longer sentences or shorter sentences, like, after a while I'm sure there's plenty of times where I've read a story where the person who wrote it has been like, wow, that's not at all what I thought it sounded like in my head. Like, okay. Like, I hope you still like it. Like, I hope it still came across. But, you know, it's tough. And to circle back to my long meandering point, Nate Dufort's really good at that. Like,
there you go.
He's got this really great deep voice, but like almost like this ominous, like, some horrible shit happened to me. Like, I'm having a really hard time, like, processing what happened. Here's my story, sort of thing. So my neighbors are dead. What am I up to? 3?
Yeah, well, you've shot out probably 8 just in the mix, but yeah. Any other ones that come off the top of your head?
The weirdest one that I won't call it a guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty about it at all, but it's called Are You Scared of These Stories?
Okay.
I don't think it's got a huge fan base, and they don't put out enough episodes. That's my only gripe with them. I literally sent them a fan letter recording once of me searching for them in the woods because it had been so long since they released an episode.
Sorry. That's pretty badass.
And I was dropping in references to their shows. And because it's like 3 guys that they're kind of pretending like they're around a campfire telling stories, but then they become characters within the stories they're telling.
Okay.
But some of it's improv too. So like you'll hear them cracking. And like sometimes it's those times when they just lose it. Like, I'm sure they edit out the bigger ones. Right. But every once in a while, like, you hear it in the background. Like, you can't help but smile when you can tell that they're having a good time. And some of the plots are so disgustingly ridiculous, especially early on. Like, the first one I listened to was called like America's Favorite Snuff Films. And I was like, and this was another recommendation. I'm like, all right, I gotta listen to this. What the hell is this? Is this gonna be like 8mm or something? But it was them spoofing, trying to get on America's Funniest Home Videos, and then Bob Saget making them make snuff films, like trying to kill one of their friends. And it's just so like blatantly ridiculous, over the top. Every time they put out like a new t-shirt on Teespring, I buy it just because I'm like, take money, make more, you bastards. Come on.
Oh yeah, man. I have to check them out too. That's why I love doing these interviews, because each time I sit down with somebody, everybody's taste is different. Like Atticus last week introduced me to a YouTube channel called like Crit Roll or something, and I've watched like 10 of these videos now of like these guys just sitting around a table like playing a tabletop RPG, but they're all voice actors, so it's really entertaining. Like, it's like, this is amazing. I would have never found this.
See, and that's dangerous too. I don't think I want to know what that is. I don't want to take up any more of my time.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way you were talking about earlier that, you find the time. Like, I mean, I had to literally, because people at work were just coming down on me because of the Stranger Things phenomenon right now. And I was like, fine. And I finally cleared like this block out, watched 4 one night and watched 4 the other. And then literally, like, not that it take away from anything, I did enjoy it, not to the level some of these people have, I guess, because I listen to horror and so many other mediums. But I was just like, man, there's so much more I could have done with that 8 hours. That's all I was thinking. And it's like, I feel guilty because, you know, people are like, well, you say you run a horror podcast, but you haven't seen Stranger Things. I'm like, man, if I listened to every podcast recommendation or watched every movie or listened to every band you're wanting me to check out, I couldn't function.
Well, it's like when the Haunting of Hill House the Haunting of Hill House came out, and everyone was talking about how amazing it was, and it is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
You know, one of the writers in the horror community, C.K. Walker, was a part of who's now a staff writer on No Sleep, but she's contributed a ton for No Sleep anyway.
Right.
She was one of the writers on the show, so it's like, oh, awesome! Like, well, let's check it out. But it was 10-hour-long episodes. Like, so in my head, I'm like, shouldn't these be 45 minutes? Like, oh no, it's straight to Netflix. Shit. Okay.
Yep.
An hour. Okay, it's really good, but there's 10 of them.
Yep.
Like,
no, it took me weeks to get through that series.
Yeah, some people sit down and they just binge it in a weekend. I'm like, my weekend TV viewing hours are the exact same as my weekday. When my kids go to bed, I have like an hour and a half before I go to sleep. You know, like I don't get to binge stuff anymore. And even if I could, I probably wouldn't. Well, like, I can't.
If I do, I set it up like me and my wife basically set up, okay, you got this much of the production done. I've done this much of this, not to mention our 40-hour, 50-hour work weeks are setting out of the way. The kids are asleep. Let's sit down and check out this movie. And it's almost like the bonding time of watching it, or I won't do it. Like, because it's worthless for me just to sit there and do it. Because then I feel like, oh man, this is time, that we could have went for a walk or, something like that. I mean, we've started this thing now, like where we go for a walk at least 30 to 40 minutes every night. And I get like, I've written like 3 or 4 of the stories for season 4 out of those walks. Because what we're talking about is what we do. Like, what if this character did this instead? Oh shit, yeah. That kind of thing. So it's a weird culture we live in. Like, I really, really enjoy like video games, but I never have time to play them. I got a stack growing like this big that's all shrink wrapped.
Oh god, yeah. I haven't played a video game since, well, besides like on my phone. Like, I haven't played a console video game since Xbox One. Wait, which console did the original Gears of War come out on?
I think it was just Xbox
360.
Was it
360?
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was a 360. Like, I had that, and I only had that for like a year or a year and a half, and then I got the Red Ring of Death. And I was like, I'm not spending another $400 on this.
Well, you're smarter than me. I went through 3 of them.
Oh, see, well, also, not long after that, my son was born.
No, okay.
So I was like, all right, my time kind of went out the window. And then it kind of also turned into one of those things where, like I'm not a good video game player.
Me neither.
Like, but so I loved like Halo and Gears of War, where I could just run at stuff. Like, I hate multiplayer, but I'm not good or coordinated. But I like stuff where it's like, all right, just go in a straight line and shoot stuff. Okay, I got it. Perfect. Let's go.
I like narrative stuff. I mean, I've always been like really into like the more narrative things. And I've gotten to the point now, like I obviously the Witcher. I really got into that game, and then this Sirenicide was born like as a podcast. The band transitioning to it right in the middle of all that. I couldn't finish that game. So I, like when I'm at work between a podcast, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go over here and just put the cutscenes. And while I'm ordering, because I'm fortunate enough to still be at a job I've been at now for 12 years, and I have headphones on constantly. But like yourself, I started out with just comedy podcasts and stuff like that. But I remember my first podcast was Bill Burr's actually in 2007, because he was promoting it when it came out, like on like his website and all that, about like, well, not just my comedy special got coming up. I'm doing this podcast thing. And it was so funny because he used to like call into a service that would post it for him.
Yeah.
And it's on his cell phone.
I remember hearing that. Like, you would like be at the airport or whatever.
Yeah, it's freaking hilarious. Well, my iPod Classic broke, or I got water in the screen or something, and I wasn't going to go buy another one of those. Around that time my son was born, same thing. So I was like, I got away from podcasts until The Walking Dead came out. And I binged all the comics up to that point, and I just wanted to talk to somebody about it so bad, but nobody that I worked with was watching it or would. They're like, I'm not watching that scary shit. So I went and found the Walking Dead cast, and that was my second podcast. Oh. And I remember when I logged in on my iPhone at that point, and then sure enough, it popped up Bill Burr. It's like, hey, you got 700 and something missed podcasts from this guy. So I started re-listening to him, not backlogging. I still have, there's no way I don't have enough life to do that. But
the only one you ever have to go back and listen to is the classic Sherry's Berries thing from Christmas, like 5 years.
Oh, Sherry's Berries, man. Oh, yeah. I started re-listening around 2011, so I haven't missed a Monday or a Thursday since. Like, that's the one I get giddy when it pops up. Like, man, this guy's such an ass. I love it.
Anytime I get, like, advertiser copy and I read a line in there that says, you will not be disparaging to this company or any competitors' companies, I automatically think, that's the Bill Burr clause, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
They all went in there and they're like, don't. We're giving you money. Don't make fun of us.
Have you ever... if you get a chance, unless you heard it live, he had video doorbell for 3 weeks. And it was the funniest shit ever. He's like, video doorbell, what stupid shit is this? I'm like, oh my God, dude, they're your fucking advertiser. And then he's like, oh, I'm the axe murderer walking up the drive. Oh, they got a video doorbell. Never mind. I guess I'll go kill the family next door.
I can't believe how he gets I mean, I get that he's got the numbers, and frankly, people probably still buy the products, even though he's making fun of them because they laugh.
Well, if he wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't know what a fucking video like that brand is, but I'll never forget it now.
I'll never forget Sherry's Berries, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, he's a fucking hoot. All right, so you said, I guess you already answered your first podcast and kind of talked about your most recent, so we're going to transition in here. I know this one's probably really difficult for you. Maybe, I don't know. What's your favorite scary movie?
Depends on the day of the week. Like literally, like I was even thinking like a half hour before we started recording, I'm like, God, I want to go watch Planet Terror tonight. And I might still go watch Planet Terror tonight.
Nice.
Because I love, like, Robert Rodriguez hit that out of the park so hard, hitting that grindhouse, like getting the grainy footage, getting the cheesy dialogue and the cuts and everything. But I probably still have to go back to Evil Dead 2.
Nice.
I attribute Evil Dead 2 to really getting me into horror because, a lot of people I've found, I hear it a lot in the horror community, at least, like, oh my God, like even my wife who will watch horror, but not, I wouldn't consider her a part of the horror community by any means. She doesn't care about any of that stuff. She just, we would watch scary movies. But she was talking about like how her aunt and uncle showed her like The Exorcist when she was like 7 or 8 or something. Yeah, exactly. And I hear about people like talking about that stuff online, and I never grew up watching horror movies.
Oh, okay.
My earliest horror movie I remember watching is when like Channel 9, like locally here, played Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Masters or Dream Warriors, on network TV. So it's highly edited, obviously. But they still showed like the marionette scene where like Freddy's got the guy by like his veins and like walking him down the hall. And I was like maybe 11, 12 when I saw that. But I remember like I was over at my grandparents' house and my grandpa came in and saw me watching it, like chewed me out because he thought horror movies were trash. And I didn't really argue with him in my head because I was terrified after seeing that scene.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell away from horror movies for probably until I hit like maybe like 17 or something. And then I got like the Blockbuster Movie Pass where you could like rent like a movie a day or something, and I would just like bike up. Maybe I was 16, or maybe I was 17, just biking up, like to the like, and just it wasn't Blockbuster. It was whatever our local movie store was.
Yeah, we had a movie gallery that did that.
Yeah, it was something like that, and I would just like rent like that, and like I rented. No, I was 18 because a guy I went to school with had recommended Army of Darkness.
Okay.
And I watched, and I remembered Army of Darkness like TV spots, because like there was like an actual Hollywood push for Army of Darkness in theaters and to try and get like more commercial focus, and I remembered seeing the ads or whatever. So I went and I watched and I was kind of like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Because like I didn't know Ash, like I didn't know any of it, and it was so cheesy, like over the top, like skeletons walking around like marionettes and stuff.
Super
and
camp.
Yeah, it was like it couldn't be campier. And the thing is that also highly like drives how I view the trilogy even now. I still think that's the worst one. And
So I was going to ask you what you thought about Army of Darkness when you said that Evil Dead 2 was your favorite.
Yeah, Evil Dead.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, so okay, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite, but it's not the scariest. The scariest is still the first one.
Yeah, well, the first one's a legit horror movie.
Yeah, the second one I think might be one of the most, in my mind, might be one of the most important horror movies of all time. Maybe outside like Jaws.
Yeah,
because Jaws was a horror movie that was a summer blockbuster that got all this like attention. I mean, even like The Exorcist, stuff like that. But I think I went back and watched The Exorcist recently.
I haven't seen it in years.
I don't think it's a great movie. Like I was watching it, like it was fine. Like the performance by Regan, like the actress Linda Blair, she was great and what she had to go through. But I was watching like I don't get what's going on. Right. For a lot of this, like the plot holes seem huge, but Jaws, I can go back and watch Jaws over and over and over. The dialogue, the acting, the characterization, the like you hear about how much like Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw hated each other, like, and they kind of like still made it work on camera. I mean, they could still hate each other on camera, but like, and the production fiascos, and it turned into like months and months to shoot. They couldn't get the shark to work, so they basically took the shark out of the movie, and that's what made the movie better. Yeah, like it probably would have been a worse movie if you were looking at a robot shark from the very beginning. It would have been like watching Jaws 3D when the shark just kind of slowly floats towards the glass, and it's supposed to have the 3D effect.
So bad.
But like in Jaws, it's just this huge phenomenal, like on all regards. Like supposedly even Spielberg thought that dun that theme, he thought that was a joke by the composer. He's like, oh, okay, now play me the real song. And the guy was like, no, that's what we're gonna use. And he's like, all right. And then obviously it's like now one of the most iconic. You hear it in everything.
You hear it in almost every community swimming pool to this day.
Absolutely. So like that, as far as like Hollywood's concerned, Jaws I think is the biggest, most important. But Evil Dead 2, I feel like that's people's segue into horror if they don't know if they like it or not, because there is enough absurdity and camp mixed in with scares and everything else that people can be like, oh, okay, so it's not just like Hellraiser, like this guy doesn't have any flesh and he's, getting a hook through his face.
It's not just, just gratuitous violence. There's actually something to enjoy here. Like what Freddy Krueger gives you in the future wouldn't be there without something like Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, it's like it's a slasher, and there's blood, and there's like plenty of blood and like dismemberment and all that stuff, and it's like tame isn't the right word, but it's not watered down. I don't mean anything like that, but it's like transitional. Right. People can be like, oh, okay, well, let me check out some other stuff. Like that wasn't so bad. I wasn't terrified by that. So I feel like if people even ask me like, oh, I've never really watched horror, or I'm scared to, or whatever, I'd be like, watch Evil Dead 2. Nice. And if nothing else, to me, that's just a barometer for them. if they watch that and they don't like it because it's too scary, you probably don't want to get into horror.
Yeah, you don't want to go no further. That's a really good point. I like that. I might have to steal that one from you because I like that idea. Like, because people ask all the time, like, well, what's too much horror and what's not? I'm like, well, there's a difference between watching something like Hellraiser and watching something like Interview with the Vampire. That's two totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, go watch like Antichrist, or go watch Baskin, or go watch oh man, what was the French one? Oh god, it's gonna drive me nuts. Anyway, but there's a lot of there's some French horror out there that's unbelievable, or more recently, like Raw. Like people were talking about like passing out in the theater, and Raw's not that bad. Like it's cannibalism themes and stuff like that, and I think it's more the concept.
What was the other one that had green in the title that was like that?
Green Inferno.
Yeah,
that was Eli Roth. He basically remade Cannibal Holocaust. Yeah, it's not Cannibal Holocaust. It's not, it's not anything like that. And or like I'd probably also put Blair Witch. That'd probably be like my top 3.
God, that's a good one, man.
Like my top 3, like most important, would probably be like Jaws, because you had the Hollywood blockbuster, kind of everything all in one. You got Evil Dead 2 because it's that genre mixing, just kind of testament to indie filmmaking and everything else and what it can be. But Blair Witch is like, and I follow like the guys who created like Blair Witch on Twitter, and every once in a while I'll just have to tweet about Blair Witch because I know some people still hate it. Like, oh god, it sucked, or whatever. Or people say it's cliche. It invented the cliches.
It did.
Any cliche you see in found footage was the Blair Witch.
Yep.
They started it, and they did it better than the people that are following after them.
Yep. I mean, we all thought growing up, because I was about 14, I think, when that came out, and everybody in like my friend circle in like freaking middle school, early high school, like we all thought it was real shit. I mean, the marketing campaign was genius.
The marketing campaign was genius. They got Sci-Fi on board making the fake documentary. Like, I remember watching the documentary on Sci-Fi, and they're talking about like where they found the film footage. And like that wasn't a part of the movie. They don't tell you any of that, like where it was found, or why any of this is important. So they kind of dive into that in the documentary. So then you're watching that and you're like, wait a second, this is fucking real?
This is real. Yep.
And it wasn't like tongue in cheek. Whereas they tried to capture lightning in the bottle a few years later when M. Night Shyamalan did The Village.
Yeah.
They tried doing the exact same thing, and it fell so flat because they tried to make M. Night Shyamalan seem like some mystical force. Like they even got like Johnny Depp on there to try and talk about like the behind the scenes. Like, well, you're if they ever say anything, they're only supposed to say this one line, and it fell flat. Like it didn't have. But the Blair Witch, like, it's got. I went back and because I remember watching it the first time and not liking it because I didn't like the guy Mike, who was like kicks the map into the into the river, and then he's laughing at him and stuff. And then like I rewatched it and I was like, well, yeah, the guy's like cracked.
Yeah,
like he's been getting yelled at. He's been being like told we're just going to keep going, and finally like he just kind of lost it. But the scene to me that is so like pitch perfect, like that I don't know if it was improvised because I know a lot of it was.
Right.
That the actors didn't even know what was going on. They actually had to find spots on a map and then to find what the scene was going to be.
Right, yeah.
And they had like 70 hours worth of footage or something. They were just constantly rolling on all this stuff. But there's this one scene when they finally realize like they're lost, and the cameraman who ends up like dying first, like takes the camera and he points, I think it's at Heather, and like points it at her and says, I can kind of see why you're always like filming, because it's almost like what you're looking at isn't real. Like, yeah. And it's this brilliant conceit to why is she filming?
Right.
Without them saying like, like I love Cloverfield, But there's kind of they try and pull the same thing off by what's his name? Not Huck, but Hub or whatever. The buddy. Trying to say like, why are you still filming this? He's like, this has to be documented. People need to know. And that's kind of the found footage conceit for a lot of stuff. Like, oh, well, this needs to be filmed. But in Blair Witch, saying something like, because you're lost and you're trying to pretend like you're somewhere else, and by looking through a camera, you can pretend like that is so fucking brilliant.
That is, man.
Like, I remember I rewatched that and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that is so smart, especially in hindsight. Getting inundated with like found footage horror, nobody has done it that well. Nobody can give you a better answer than that.
Right.
Like, Paranormal Activity made massive box office, and it was such a simple premise, and it worked really well. But there are plenty of times where it's like, why is this dipshit keep grabbing this camera? Why is he even thinking because it makes me like him less. That his first thought is to get the camera. So I'm not even rooting for him. I'm still rooting for the people in the woods, because she's just trying to move forward and salvage things.
Well, you can realistically put yourself in their shoes. Like, if you're out there, like, this would happen to me. I mean, I'm no better than these people that are going through this.
Yeah, they're just personality types. Right. That's all it is. It's like, she was the boss. She let him out there. She's trying to hold it together, keep moving, like trying to be like the tough, like, whereas like also like accepting the guilt, but not wanting to accept the guilt and accept everything is wrong.
Yeah.
It's such a good fucking movie.
And it's another one of those things too. I mean, we talked about Jaws and the community pools. I don't know how many times like you get too deep in the woods, and no matter who you're walking around with, someone's going to bring up, well, the Blair Witch. And it's just, it's a cultural phenomenon, man.
Absolutely. It's so, because it's the woods. The woods are scary. There's a reason I use it in the logo for Creepy. The woods, like, unless anyone who's, I mean, granted, growing up in Minnesota, like, I've been around plenty of woods in my life, but like, it's just a trope that makes sense. It can be the middle of the day, and if you're walking through the woods just a little bit too deep, I've done it on bike paths before, where I'm just suddenly like, I don't want to go too far away from the middle of the day.
Right.
Noon.
I might not come back from this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, there's just that fundamental, like, getting lost where, like, in plain sight sort of thing, where all of a sudden, like, you're just gone. Like, Blair Witch. So my short answer, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite. So, but I expanded on that to, for some reason, talk about the most important horror movies.
That was good. That's what I liked about these interviews, man. They always bring out like such a good tangent. I love it. So, what's your favorite book out there?
My favorite book of all time. My favorite horror book.
They're gonna give you that backpack. You got to be able to shove one book in it. What you packing?
For one, so my Desert Island book.
Yes, there you go.
My Desert Island book is Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
I know it's a weird pick. I have a BA in English Lit. I have a master's degree in writing. I have spent a lot of money reading books that other people told me to read. But I loved Anthony Bourdain's writing. I still love his writing. It's probably the book I've read the most. Like, my jobs growing up were in kitchens. Okay. Like, I was a cook. Like, I was a cook until into my 20s. Oh, wow. You know, cook, bartender, stuff like that. And like, my brother was a professional chef.
Damn.
Yeah, like he, and which is funny because like my family, I don't remember cooking that much growing up. Like, we'd have like, you know, like we'd have like either chicken or pork chops were our protein, you know, and it wasn't like steak was a rarity sort of thing. And I don't remember there for being anything fancy, but
what's about the book? Like, I've never obviously read this book.
So it's just, for me, partially it rings true just because just the little things about like working in a kitchen. But Anthony Bourdain's got just this really simple delivery. Like, when you're reading it, it's like you're just listening to him talk about being in a kitchen. Like, it's not pretense or anything. It's just great storytelling. And like, I loved his TV shows like No Reservations and Cook's Tour. And I never really got into his later stuff. And like his Suicide I've never been bothered by people that I've never met dying until he took his own life. And it just had this really profound effect that still bothers me in a lot of ways. And partially because his writing affected me so much that, like I love Kurt Vonnegut and I love Stephen King and I love Elmore Leonard and the way they can write and the tones they can find and stuff. But Anthony Bourdain had just this really natural storytelling that at least once a year I'll sit down and I'll reread his book. Like his book, like it's been torn up, like my kids, and it's been retaped. Like I think there's a milk ring from a bottle from when I was like reading it, like feeding my kid like before bed. And it's just like I get like it's not for everybody because like either you feel you understand like the subject matter or not, a professional cook, line cook, probably fast food cook. But it's one of those books that like it's trying not to sound too cliche. For me, it's like a warm blanket. Like it's familiar and it's just something that I know I can sink into and read these stories over and over again.
Nice.
It's just this mix of like funny and sad, like him going through severe addictions and like just bouncing around, never finding a place. And like it's like for me, like that's my all-timer.
I like that.
And it's even I think it's a weird pick. I think it's a weird pick. Like I think Are You Scared of These Stories is a weird pick. Like I'm not ashamed of how much I like it, but I feel like sometimes I tell people and they're like, what now?
Like that. So earlier I brought up video games, and it doesn't seem like that's something you do on a regular basis. But
in a few years,
it was funny. We had one of my friends, Adam. We interviewed him, and he was like, "I guess Word with Friends would be my favorite video game." It's like I play it constantly.
So the one I play regularly, speaking of zombies, I'll have to pull it up on my phone because I forget what it's called. Because I never. It's called Into the Dead 2.
Okay.
And it's just like a first-person zombie shooter. Like it's literally your character runs straight forward, and you can just kind of veer left or right, and then just shoot at zombies that come at you. Cool. Yep, it's complete mindless. I need to shoot at something.
Nice.
Today.
All right. So plowing ahead, what would you say your favorite color and something that you own that proves it?
I have a lot of blue, I suppose. Now that I look around
I see a blue
office.
blanket behind you. I guess that's your booth.
Oh, this?
Well, no, the one on the wall.
Oh, yeah. I've got a packing blanket. There you go. Perfect.
Yep.
The packing blanket I use for sound dampening.
I love that because I saw the other day David was recording from No Sleep, and he has very similar to the same one that I got a nice black curtain. Of course, nobody in podcast land can see this right now, but usually it is that like same pleated freaking U-Haul blue moving blanket. I mean, they're just perfect, man.
Yeah, I've got 2 more strung up inside the booth behind me too. So I have like a layer of the foam, and then over the foam I drape blankets too, just to help.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So if you could go to any place on the globe, what would it be and why?
So I have.
You can bring your family with you, or you can leave them at home, whatever you want.
Well, so that's 2 different answers.
Okay.
So if it's bring my family with me, it would only be my wife, because I don't want to drag my kids to Europe. But I'd love to go like UK, like do like England, Scotland, Ireland. I've never been over there, and that's kind of one of those things that we keep saying we'll do for like our 15th or 20th anniversary or something.
Okay, that's cool.
So I'd love to do that. If it's just me, I'd love to go to Tokyo.
Oh yeah, man.
Because that seems like such a culture shock. Because I love like New York, and I love like New Orleans and Chicago, like places that have a really specific feel.
Yeah.
But anything I've ever seen in Japan seems so far beyond anything I could comprehend that I would want like a fixer there. Like I would want someone to be like, all right, this is where you go for this and this and this. This is how thanks. Like at least let me know.
Right.
But I feel like I could just
wander around
all day.
Yeah.
Like what in the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
This is amazing. And then everyone's going to get rip shit drunk at night, so I can just wander into a bar and drink Sapporos all night. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Their vending machines are crazy. I just watched a Tasty video about how supposedly like their convenience stores are just supposed to be amazing. Like the stuff that you can just get out of like a wrapper is like you wouldn't believe how good this stuff was. It's like, I'm curious. Like I would love to 3 or 4 days just to be just like culture shock to hell. Be awesome.
All right. So flipping it on its head, any fictional place, what would it be and why?
All right. So this is gonna sound like a little bit of a weird answer. A very specific place within a movie, not the book. So The Shining.
Okay.
In the Overlook Hotel.
Okay.
But only the kitchen.
Only the kitchen.
Because I suppose it circles back to the whole cooking thing.
Okay.
But when Scatman Carruthers is talking about all the meat they have in the freezer.
Right.
Like, and we got lambs, we got rump roast, we got hot dogs and hamburgers and steaks and all that stuff. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. Give me that. I want to go to the world where they're like, watch our house and eat meat for the whole winter. And we don't care.
So
eat all our food.
On the same talk that we were talking about earlier, mixing with that, have you heard Bill's Butcher Box ads?
Oh God, no,
dude! You could just YouTube it because I mean, some people do snippets, but you got to hear Bill Burr talk about the Butcher Box. He's like, "All right, finally an advertiser I can get into." He's like, he just starts going because like half the time he's like, "I don't know why they want me to tell you I'm wearing these pants or this watch because I'm not." But he's like, "This is a product I'm actually using."
Well, I watched him. Because I always watch his stand-up specials when they come out on Netflix. Yeah. But I was listening to it's been a while, but I was listening to his podcast when he's really big into like baking cakes. Yeah. So it was great because like he would make fun of himself for baking cakes, but then continue to bake cakes. Yeah. Like he would mock himself even though his friends weren't around. Like he's totally taking the piss out of the argument by being like, "Oh, I'm just mixing up some batter now." Like and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm making a fucking cake. What's the problem?"
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Just the
so
grief.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. All right, so this of course I ask everybody this question. So on a scale of 10 out of 10, why is Star Wars still an 11?
Star Wars, the original Star Wars,
whatever Star Wars is to you, John.
The unedited Star Wars. Because Star Wars after George Lucas got really self-conscious is not the same Star Wars. That's not my Star Wars. And I am so oh God, I felt a little dirty saying that. Not my Star Wars.
Hashtag not my Star Wars.
Oh God. But I grew up and we had one of the movies I've probably seen the most, which is weird because I never think about it like this, is Empire Strikes Back. And it's because it was like the first movie we ever taped on our VCR off TV. I still remember some of the commercials. I remember Paul Hogan trying to sell Foster's. I remember like Lee Iacocca in a commercial. I love those old 80s commercials where it's just like it's such a rooted in time moment for me. So, but that was the digitally adding everything and sound effects and Greedo shoot. I didn't know Greedo shooting first was a thing. Like because I'd seen the old ones, and I hadn't rewatched them in forever. And then I remember it was a joke in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back or whatever, since Greedo shooting first. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Greedo shooting first. And then I went back. And I still hadn't thought about it, and I was watching it over again. And you see Han's head twitch to the side or whatever, and then shooting.
Digital.
Why'd they do that?
Right.
Well, no one was complaining.
Nope.
George, what are you doing?
It was during that, the ET and all that, putting the walkie-talkies where the guns. It was.
And I never saw that either. I heard about that too. I only remember seeing the original one. It was such a weird thing. Yeah. It was like the old school comic book code, where people were coming in and saying, "Oh, you can't do that." It's like, Return of the Jedi. They took out, they added that weird CGI dance scene. It was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they took the Ewok song out, man. Yeah.
The old one was fine. Yeah, it's so. the original. What's my favorite? It's probably the original. Man, that's a tough call. Because I love the Rancor. I don't know why. Rancor was my favorite thing. I never understood why people love Boba Fett.
Right.
Because the way I remember Star Wars, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, despite the fact that he's in Empire Strikes Back,
He doesn't do anything.
you don't know his name.
Yeah, you know.
I don't remember them.
Nope. There's the holiday special was the first time you ever heard his name. There was a little animated cartoon.
Okay, so that weird Chewbacca one or whatever. So maybe that's why people knew who he was. Because and I even remember like when he dies in the third one or falls into the Sarlacc pit, which again you didn't need to add a mouse to that thing. Like I didn't realize Han Solo was saying Boba Fett.
Right.
It sounds like he's saying like Bolo Net or something.
And he's so delirious, he's just getting his sight back. So I mean, it's gibberish.
And it's like, how am I supposed to know who he's talking about? And then like he hits another guy and that guy dies, and I'm like, okay, well, what was he talking about? Like I didn't know he was even saying his name.
Apparently, John, you didn't have enough action figures to know what the characters were between the movies, man.
See, but I had the Rancor action figure. It was like a foot tall and had a little trigger in the back that made his mouth move.
Yep.
So I knew what the Rancor was.
Right.
I knew Bib Fortuna.
Yep.
I knew Salacious the Crumb. Salacious the Crumb got a bad rap. I remember seeing the behind the scenes making. There's like a behind the scenes making of the Return of the Jedi, and the puppeteers have Salacious the Crumb like walk around talking about stuff. So I love Salacious the Crumb. Like, and they gave him like an actual kind of funny, deep voice. And so I remember hearing people like, "Oh, that's one of the dumbest characters in Star Wars." I'm like, "What are you talking about? He's amazing. He took us on a tour of LucasArts."
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I just like it. I mean, it transitions time through, different scenarios. Like my daughter, she started rewatching all the movies, and like one of her favorite characters is Jar Jar, which is just like, the epitome of hate in so many different areas of the internet and on the, with so many Star Wars fans. And it's just like, well, I stumble, I fall, I pick stuff up and accidentally break it. It's a character I can relate to,
I know that Star Wars was an insanely important moment for Hollywood and culturally and pop culturally, and especially like the universe that's been built. Like if you go on Wikipedia and you try and everything's got a name and a backstory and a history and its own side plot and fan fiction. It's unbelievable. It literally is its own universe. Yep. It's so gigantic. Like every one of the bounty hunters that you see in Empire Strikes Back, like on that walkway, has a name, has a backstory.
IG-88, all the guys, Bosk.
All of yeah. I didn't know that Bosk was a guy. I was like, what the hell is a Bosk? I'm like, oh, the slimy thing?
Yeah.
Which I learned when I was like 35.
Yeah, it's a Trandoshan. What the
There you go. See, and it's this huge cultural thing. But really, if you watch it, like supposedly Harrison Ford hated it.
Yeah,
he hated the dialogue. Like he thought it was so ridiculous. And he messes up parsecs, his time versus distance. Like there's the people like apologists trying to explain what it could. Well, I heard the Solo movie.
Yeah, Solo corrected it. Yeah.
That.
Yep.
And it's just like the thing about it is like George Lucas only did the first one. Like he only wrote and directed the first one.
And
then it got handed off. Yeah.
Yep.
So they're fine. Like visually, and as far as like the scope and the world building, creating the universe, they're amazing.
It's the hero's journey, man, and it's raw form, really.
Exactly. Yeah. But as far as like the actual, but nostalgia takes it a long way.
Yeah.
Like as far as it being a really good movie, I don't know I'd say that, but nostalgically speaking, yeah. Like especially like kids of the 70s, 80s, and frankly, even with the new series, the new trilogy,
because that one
each
day
generation gets theirs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like one day, my son's kids will be playing in the yard, like, I'm going to catch your blaster bolt. Oh, like Kylo. Yeah. And, you hear the internet crying about stuff like that. But a 12-year-old, 11-year-old don't care when they're out there playing in the backyard.
When Kylo stopped that blaster bolt, I was sitting there like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, me too, man.
Well, when in Rogue One, when Darth Vader comes out and
that
just
hallway scene
tears shit up, and that scene wasn't supposed to happen. Like that was like a last minute decision that they were going to do that, and that was amazing. Yeah,
dude.
The only problem is then you go back and you watch the first one and say, "What the hell was that lightsaber fight?
What happened?" Yeah.
Did you ever see the internet correcting? Someone went back and corrected that
scene
fight.
38. Yeah. Oh, and they did the prequel fighting and all that with it.
They did it awesome.
Yeah. I'll link that in the show notes for people to see if they haven't seen it.
There's fan films now that are just phenomenal.
Have you seen the Darth Maul one?
Yes, the one where they're on like the forest planet with all the.
Yes, dude, that was shot
I got really into watching some fan films for a while. I was amazed what they did with that. Yeah. Did you see the Dark Power Rangers? There's a Power Rangers one starring James Van Der Beek.
No, but it's
shit. Like, yeah, it's super dark though and gritty, and it's like a world where they really existed. But like it's really,
I'm gonna check that out now.
Check it out. Like,
that's awesome. I'll throw that in the notes too. I'll find it.
James Van Der Beek, like Power Rangers on YouTube. Like it's really like they made Dark Power Rangers. I'm like, that's how you got to make a movie.
Wow, that's badass, awesome. Man. All right, so Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or Game of Thrones? Which one?
Well, I haven't seen all the Harry Potter movies. I only saw like the first 3. Lord of the Rings. I saw them all, but I was never a big Tolkien fan growing up, so I'd probably have to say Game of Thrones, just because I got familiar. Yeah, and frankly for me, it was mostly I'm a huge Peter Dinklage fan. Like I loved him in Elf. He was so perfect in Elf. Like go ahead, call me a dwarf again.
Yeah,
or call me one more time, and then he drop kicks him off the table like. He's just got such a great presence, and I'm the Lord of Tits and Wine.
That's awesome, dude. Because I was being interviewed for the Scary Dad podcast a few weeks back, and he brought that up. He brought Elf up. He brought that scene up. He's like, man, good. Yeah. But his trial scene, I think that's one of the rare times I've watched a TV series and teared up. Like, I mean, just got emotional. You know, I'm on trial for being what I am, not. For what you people have put me here for, and I've been on it my whole life, and it's just like, oh my god, dude. Oh.
Well, the scene when so before that one guy fights the mountain and gets his head crushed. Spoilers. Yeah. So when he comes to Tyrion's cell to like be his champion or whatever, and he's telling the story about when he was like, oh, and I remember when we were little, like your brother and sister would come around and say, oh, the monster, and we would beg to see him. And finally one day they showed me, and I came up and I said, this is not a monster. This is a baby.
Yep.
Like his arms are a little short and his head's a little big, but it's just a baby. And just that like crushing moment of this, finally this guy is standing across from him saying you're not a monster.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, like that's supposedly like when Peter Dinklage was their only choice for the role too, and he's so perfect.
He makes that series, actor. Man. He did an amazing job. And what's cool is I was fortunate. We binged I think the first 2 seasons, or we binged the first season and watched the second season live, and then between the 9 months between season 2 and 3. I fucking got introduced to one of my favorite narrators of all time, Roy Dotrice, and he narrates all the audiobooks for Game of Thrones, and I powered through all of them.
I haven't read any of those yet. Geez. I don't know if I can commit.
Well, my thing is, he takes like that whole Stephen King kind of element of describing the room to like, and I know a lot of people get angry about this because there's so many purists on it, and I'm not knocking. I did enjoy the novels. I did. But it was cool being able to take somebody like Tyrion in my head now and plug them into that scene.
Sure.
Like, so it just made the books that much better. Like, just my imagination now rolling with just like Dinklage's face kind of now and his movements and his voice. So it was really, really cool,
people can argue purism all they want, but, sometimes, and it's not often because of the nature of the medium, but sometimes movies make it better. Like, you know what? I love Chuck Palahniuk. Like, I love like Survivor and Fight Club and all of his books, and I buy them and I read them. Fight Club was a better movie.
Yep.
Brad Pitt made Tyler Durden better.
Yep.
He just did.
Yep.
He made him cool. Tyler Durden wasn't really that cool in the book. And like, so he changed what Tyler Durden was. And And I love Cormac McCarthy. He's one of my all-time favorite writers with like No Country for Old Men and The Road. But No Country for Old Men, the Coen brothers made the book better.
Yeah, that's an amazing movie, man.
It's a great book, but I can watch that over and over. Tommy Lee Jones is phenomenal. Javier Bardem. Like, it doesn't, because Cormac McCarthy has this really sparse way of writing. Like, it's very specific, very driven forward. And the scenes, you can see the scenes in the movie. Like, they translate it really well. But when you get those performances, like the scene where who plays Llewellyn? Like he's Thanos and Cable and
Brolin, Josh Brolin.
Yeah, Josh Brolin. When Josh Brolin's in the hospital over in Mexico and Woody Harrelson's sitting across from him and kind of talking, the scene exists pretty much the same as it does in the book. But you don't get that back and forth reaction. It's words. Yeah. It's back and forth. And so like sometimes movies, that visualization makes a big difference sometimes.
Well, most recently, last year we went and saw Ready Player One, and I didn't see it in theaters because the critics had ripped it a new one. People I worked with were like, don't waste your time. And finally, it came out, it hit the dollar theater, so I still got to see it on a semi-big screen. I went and saw it in a dollar theater 3 times. It's just amazing, but I had never read the book. So then I read the book and was able to plug in all of that, and it just, both of them merged. But like I said, I was able to separate them. I enjoyed the shit out of the book. I really, really enjoyed the movie. I understand one's a retelling of the other, and I don't hold one accountable for the other one. I mean, that's just ridiculous to me, but some people just can't separate that, I guess.
Well, and you just can't trust people. Which isn't to say that people are wrong all the time, but that's like True Detective. Like, I loved season 1. Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey at just pitch perfect performances, were beautifully shot.
Dora Lang.
So amazing. And then I didn't see season 2 because I didn't have HBO. And everyone just was tearing it apart, saying it was shit. Don't bother. What a waste. Oh, so downhill. And I went back and I watched season 2 like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, well, yeah, it's different from season 1. It's still really good. Rachel McAdams has never played that kind of a character.
Well, it feels like a dark cop movie where the first one felt like a twisted Western. And I love how they have just a different template to them, because even the third one feels like a different movie or a different series than the other two.
Well, and season 2 is just more complicated.
Yeah.
Like, and granted, it was a little convoluted because there were just some names I wasn't tracking through the whole thing. And now I'm like 3 or 4 episodes into season 3. And again, it's a different thing. It's now you're playing with the concepts of memory and time and everything. And like, I don't know. I think Castle Rock. So did you see Castle Rock?
I have not.
And that came out on Hulu. So they kind of play with the time, like concepts of time and that with like Alzheimer's and stuff. And Sissy Spacek has this one episode that is so heartbreakingly beautiful. She deserves all the awards for like just dealing with her Alzheimer's. It's like the series built and unfortunately for me, the last episode didn't pay off.
Right.
But the build-up was amazing. But there's this one episode of Sissy Spacek that's unbelievable. But they play with the themes of Alzheimer and memory and time, like kind of like season 3 of True Detective is, where like he'll suddenly be like, "What are you saying?" And then it'll flash to the other time. Yep. And that's just fascinating to watch too, because then you're absolutely pulled into all 3 times. So good.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. It gets even better. I think you're gonna fucking dig it, man.
I can't wait.
Let's see. So, what's a song that takes you away from it all? I've got to play this song and escape.
I don't know if I should say this to a death metal guy.
You'll be all right. Trust me. Depeche Mode's one of my favorite bands.
So I have this, and I joked about this in a recent ad that I ran on Creepy, but I have a weird little chip on my shoulder because Africa by Toto is one of my favorite songs. So when Weezer came out with it, I was kind of like, oh, awesome. Like, they're getting like cool. Like Toto's going to get some more attention. But then like everyone got obsessed with Africa. I'm like, they got a whole catalog, right? And Weezer didn't make it their own.
Right.
Like I recently heard there's a death metal cover of Africa, and it's awesome because you put your own flavor on it. Like, but don't sing a karaoke version of Africa. So I love Africa, and the other weird one, well, not weird, it's what I like, is Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, nice. That's a good
I
one.
love Time After Time.
That's...
My old joke used to be there's like 650 million views on YouTube, and 50 million of them are mine.
So go check out Gunship's cover of Time After Time. Just came out last summer.
Gunships?
Yeah, they're a synth wave band, and they like arpeggiated it. But I mean, it's a male vocalist covering it, and it's a really, they kept the timing the same. They didn't change it up that much, but it doesn't feel like a karaoke. It feels like the song in an alternate universe.
Gunship. Gunship Time After Time official audio. Got it.
Okay, all right. So, what are you spinning right now or streaming right now out there? Like, what's been running through your headphones lately?
Oh, you mean just as far as podcasts?
No, music.
Music?
Yeah.
You know, I listen to like the same 20 things over and over again. I like listening to a lot of 80s. Like if I'm doing housework or whatever, it'll be just like I'll listen. Like it'll be like Heart. It'll be
cool. Yeah.
Bon Jovi. It'll be like just whatever. I'll throw some Rick Astley in there. I don't care.
Did you like the Lost Boys, the original?
I love the original Lost Boys.
Right,
and that's another movie where you go back and you're like, that's not a great movie.
Yeah,
nostalgia.
Yeah, but check out Gunship's Dark All Day music video. The music video.
Is that the song from the dude who's shirtless with the saxophone?
Yes. Yeah, he's in there. Yep.
Awesome.
Sexy Sax Man's in there, man. And he's playing, I mean, that's literally him in the music video like fucking 30-something years later. Still that jacked.
Awesome. There used to be so much more saxophone in movies.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this weird moratorium on it.
That's Dark All Day is the name of the song. It's also the name of the album. My family was very fortunate. We're actually in one of the music videos for them. I mean, they're across the pond. They're from the UK, but they're an amazing band. Once you hear that Time After Time cover, you're going to be like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then it's going to go up there once you get into their originals. It's really, really good. It's worth spinning.
Awesome.
You know, I'm not getting paid for that, definitely. But I love the hell out of them. So, all right. So, you can only have one: a cat, a dog, a bird, a reptile, fish, or an arachnid. Which one?
Dog.
Awesome.
I don't even want the other ones.
Gotcha. All right. Have you ever been under the surgical knife?
I have. Just once. And I have 2 kids, and I can no longer have any more. Is that too much information?
No, that's good. That's a lot of people with that question. They're just like, yes.
But they did play around with my wirings while I was awake, while we were chatting.
Nice.
I saw steam hissing from the cauterization. So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. I don't think that's too much TMI. We are Sirenicide. And with that, we're going to segue into the Sirenicide question. So the big heavy hitter, Doc, can you relate?
No, I'm not nearly as ominous.
Okay.
I don't think that I have grand schemes. I think that I'm a little less apathetic. A little bit more empathetic.
You're not the architect of the apocalypse.
Oh, I hope not. But one of these days, someone's gonna be like, "See, I knew it."
So you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but what was it like going from what you recorded in your booth to hearing the first time you heard Doc in context?
I was nervous as hell. I'm always nervous. Like anytime I record for someone else's podcast, I'm always like, "Oh God, I hope this doesn't suck." So I always try and do like a few takes of lines just because I'm like, especially because I didn't write it. So I don't know if the delivery is going to be wrong or something like that. And so I was mostly nervous. And then I was like, well, God, are people just going to hear my voice and then be like, because I mean, I guess I assume that I have a fairly discernible voice, just like my delivery. So I'm like, I also didn't want to feel like it derailed anybody. Like if they had heard me from like small town horror or creepy, because sometimes like that's tough too. Like if you're too aware of a particular delivery or cadence of someone's voice, like because they're not like within character.
Yeah.
And Doc, especially early on, just didn't have a lot of lines. So, and then actually hearing it, I was like, oh, okay, no, we're good. You're gonna pretty much completely mask me. Perfect. Yeah. Go with that.
Man, I fucking it tripped me out so much. Like hearing you like evolve him. You do such a really, really good job. Like, we try our hardest when we're writing these scripts to, give that little bit of inflection, like what's in your headspace, what's in your wheelhouse before you deliver this dialogue. And you're one of the people that really, really good are like, says seething through his teeth or something, and you really like embody it. I don't ever hear it going, well, I guess he didn't read that line. And I'm always really nervous when I first get stuff back, because our first season, man, is just complete cheese. It's very comic booky, and it was supposed to be. It's supposed to promote a horror show that's on stage where I'm pulling organs out of people, put some corn syrup and some food coloring on there, and I'm pulling out organs out of these bodies and stuff. And that was the whole point. It feels like a comic book when you're watching it. It's like death metal song, intermission with some cool surgery, next death metal song. And that was the show. And so to give these guys storyline and then try to evolve it once it started picking up steam, and it was like, oh man, do I go back and George Lucas the shit out of my stuff? No. You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, and I'm really big on that with the first season, so I won't touch it. As much as I want to go back and put all these new software plugins I have and clean up a lot of the mouth clicks and do all the stuff to season 1 to make it sound, because season 1 we recorded in a blanket fort. Not in a booth, but in a blanket fort. That's all we could do. We took mic stands, put them up, and put those blue moving blankets all around us. It's just one of those things that when I got your lines in for Doc, and that was the end of season 2. Season 2, spoilers for everybody. But, and when it's just, I love that line to this day, and Matt saw, am I dead? What do you think? And it's just like, that's delivery. And, I'm not trying to stroke you here. I'm serious. It was a very, that's the guy. Like that moment. And this was the raw take before all the stuff's on it that we did. I was just like, that's it. That's Doc. That's fucking Doc. Because in my mind, Doc was a failsafe no matter how much we were with whoever we decided was going to voice him. If we weren't ever happy with the performance, he's an essence transfer body jumper. You can always, which is perfect for an audio drama medium, you can always transfer him. And can't spoil anything for season 4, but we'll just let the listeners know that, of course, Jon is joining us for season 4, and he's done an amazing job of helping us round out this final serialized season. It's going to be good, man. So if you were going to go through the Anathema is our great apocalypse that's on the horizon that we've been talking about since season 1. And we got a couple of factions here. We got, Doc and the USG, which are the epitome of pure evil of the architects. We got Sirenicide, which is really gray. At first, people are like, okay, these guys are awful. They're kidnapping and surgerying on people. But then you're figuring out that they're preparing them to be able to endure something. And then, of course, we got the Dark Elite, which is, our Sector 7, our people just messing with everything. But they're also trying to keep things that Doc's doing under wraps from the masses so people don't just lose their minds and civilization doesn't stop. And then we got Trinity, which is our good guys. An angel, a doctor that can see sicknesses, and a drunk detective. Who would you ride out with?
Can I be the drunk detective?
Can you be Harper? You can be his
brother. Or his sidekick. That's
yeah,
fine.
there you go. He's a pretty lonely guy, so he probably would like that. Someone to talk to.
So, I suppose I'd probably be a part of Sector 7. I think that.
Well, technically you were. You were Gregory.
Probably makes the most sense in a lot of ways. I don't think that I'm altruistic enough to think I can save the world. I'm definitely not interested in ending it.
Well, dying's an option too. That's the last option.
Oh, I'll take that one.
Yeah, most people.
Yeah. Yeah. Just take me out.
Yeah. Because I usually ask the question like this: would you go through it with Doc, Sirenicide, the Dark Elite, Trinity, or would you just die? And most people are like, I'm dead. There's no way I'm making it through this shit.
It's like that question about like how long would you survive in a zombie apocalypse? I wouldn't. Are you kidding? Like if I'm lucky Actually, no, if I'm on, like, basically, I would assume that any apocalypse scenario ends like The Mist for me. Like the worst possible ending of just me shattered because I did the wrong thing 6 seconds too soon.
Nice.
So I'm like, just take me out.
Nice.
I've had a good run.
All right, guys, we're going to take a brief break and enjoy a couple of snippets of some of the stuff that Jon's done as the great doc, and we'll be right back with the giveaway.
I am not trying to anger you. I just need you to tell me what you want me to do.
Awaken the Tunnel Sentinels. Arrived right on time.
Doc?
I thought you were with Sirenicide, but Johnny would have never sent someone down here alone. I knew it wouldn't be long before one of his abominations found their way here. 808. What is this you are attached to?
Albert Harrison is dead. Doc, I am using this vessel to communicate with you.
You have my attention, child. Continue if you can. Go ahead. Kill them. I will build more.
You will never change.
I agree, it is starting to crack. Picked him up in South Korea. He was an American stationed there. I'm surprised you recognized me. You are not a resurgent.
No, I am not.
Then what are you?
Something scarier.
This is finished. You, 447, Nancy, and the other necromancer leave with us now and burn this place to the ground. You still a Baptist, Johnny?
What do you think?
Of course not. You're more of a god now, my old friend. And this boy Eddie is like a son to you. Someone you have poured all your hopes and dreams into.
Call me dramatic.
I believe there's a very well-known piece of scripture that fits your situation. John 3:16. What I will say is most tales are based on some fact. So, I suggest you go back to that tower of yours. Find that weathered old black Civil War Bible you had when we met and take some damn notes. You might go ahead and at least cover John 3:10 to 3:21. 3:16 might not be clear enough for you.
Doc, you don't understand. There is a powerful, chaotic wild living within him.
Then you better find him first.
All right, and we are back with the Patreon giveaway. Explaining the rules once again if it's your first time hearing them. So we are giving away an item at the end from our Sirenicide store off of our TeePublic. And you can go to sirenicide.com, click on the store link, take you there. And we've given away laptop cases, phone cases, bags, journals, all sorts of stuff so far this season, t-shirts, and and coffee cups, thermoses, all sorts of good stuff. So we're going to be transitioning into that again. If you won last week or the week before, sorry, you got to wait. But don't worry. After 2 episodes, you are rethrown back in the pool. That way, you got a good reason to keep listening throughout the summer. So that's right. Just for your hard-earned dollar and giving it over to our show, $1 enters you in to win this stuff. And we're going to go from there. So let's see. This week, the Patreon has grown with some more patrons, so that's always nice. And let's see what we got here. So, pulling it up right now. And everybody knows that we're going to pull via the wiretap. We got to love our wiretap. Siri, give me a number between 1 and 40.
It's 17.
I heard 17.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So 17, let's see. 17. Jason tear bone, you are the winner of a medically induced metal Sirenicide bag. Congratulations, man. And just once you hear this, just shoot me a message and we'll get that right out to you. So that's going to basically round it out for this ICE episode. It's been a nice one. It's been a long one, and we've learned a lot of things about the man behind the voice of Doc. Once again, John, can you please tell everybody where they can find your happenings online and follow all your goodness?
So the vast majority of the stuff you can find me in is on the Creepy Podcast. You can find Creepy Podcast pretty much anywhere you hear podcasts. Otherwise, online, you can find me at CreepyPod on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook, I think, is also facebook.com/CreepyPod.
Sweet. All right. And we'll have those links again below. Check them out. Go subscribe to the show. Find your favorite creepy podcast out there. And I'm sure he's probably had it narrated by this point. He's got a pretty massive library going on. I'm still catching up.
Well, we have about 300 just on Patreon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of content. If you're looking for a lot of content for like free, it's out there. And then if you want to take that extra step and help keep the show going and support the faces behind the scenes, you can go over and check out CreepyPod's Patreon as well. So, and with that, I think we're going to call it a night, guys. So out there in podcast land, we're getting that much closer. Season 4 approaches September 17th. We'll see you guys then. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you.
You better let go now. You're almost dead.
All elements of Sirenicide are copyright 2019 by Atrium Dynamics unless otherwise stated. Any duplication of this production without the secured written consent of Atrium Dynamics is strictly prohibited. Please visit Sirenicide.com for more details.